Where does
Right,
it get
Tom.
play? Where does this go after this? Where would this go?
It
This
goes
pod-
to YouTube.
oh, it does?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here, Tom. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I'm glad that
okay,
finally
okay,
we're doing it.
yeah. Well, anyway, I got this idea from a wedding I went to a while back, and uh, originally I had the setting was in San Antonio, and I was uh, a guy had seen a woman at a wedding that he had his eye on, and he he basically pulled a private eye on her and just kind of followed her, tracked her, and and got around the Riverwalk, all that area. You been down there? Maybe
Yeah.
you haven't. But anyway, and she finished school and went down there and was working. And he was in, I believe, I can't find or hadn't found so far the original document that I set it up with, but he was either pretending or was in the same business. She was in fashion, and she had some girlfriends who one of them was a model and one was the behind the scenes kind of person, and so they were you know hooking up back and forth with different social events and stuff, and he was tracking them, and he had one time had met him. I don't know if he was just, I believe he's a little bit older than them, but anyway, they'd met in some way. I think in San Antonio, could be wrong. Anyway, so I had it that he was concerned that if he got near her, she would recognize him again and maybe shown him or whatever. So, and he was a few years older, so he went and had plastic surgery and changed his face and everything. And so, uh, the original storyline was that he got in some of her social circles with her and her girlfriends that were in the same fashion business in San Antonio. And one of them lived in Dallas and one of them lived in San Antonio. And uh, anyway, uh, the original storyline was that he wanted to make her an adventure, in winning her over and everything. And uh, was leaving the emotional end of things completely out, like he would ever have a relationship with her or a romance. And then actually uh, he, well, I I don't remember how I carried it on from there, but maybe I ran it by some people as far as that storyline, and so I changed it up, and the storyline now is it's got a temporary name called the Wayward One, and it's one in which uh, the same guy's involved. He does get, but he's pretty much the same age as them, maybe a year or two older, a little more experience and everything in the field, and so they uh, socialize, and there's alcohol and drugs and stuff involved, and it's kind of, guess you'd call it romantic. And then the two girls get together. I don't want to spoil anything, so they they ended up together at an event. The one came down from Dallas, and they attended, or the one from San Antonio went up anyway. They attended a mutual fashion event, and uh, it goes on from there. But anyway, so so I've got kind of like two different directions to go in on that one, uh, uh, and I'm not quite sure. I do have some critiques that I've had done on it, and which are pretty good. And then I'm doing my own. So I've got a lot of work to do on that. Got a lot of thinking to do on that one to
How
decide
long have you been working on this piece?
on and off, mostly off lately. I think I started about 5 years ago. But I just, I'd mentioned that in some of our meetings. Uh, sometimes it takes uh, letting it just fester and sink in, and then get some critiques done on it, everything, and before you realize what direction, and you want it to take its own direction, and you just kind of follow it. And um, so I did that for a while, and then I changed it up, and this particular version is a little more risque uh, as far as that's concerned. And one at least one person who was in on the reading. This is before you got into the group. Uh, she they read it and they were kind of repulsed by the way I ended it. So I don't know whether I'm going to stick with that or play around with it a little bit more. But I've really enjoyed. I enjoy writing short stories. I just haven't written very many, and none of course are published or anything. But I started one when I was. I'll get another couple out here and kind of discuss them. I started one when I developed prostate cancer, which was in 2000, late 2010, 2011. And so I wrote a story um, uh, from the angle of the prostate, actually
Hmm.
talking. It's kind of uh, uh, or a runner who develops prostate cancer is really what it is, and so I call it the prostated runner, and so and it's been through some critiques and stuff, and it's got I need to, you know, as we say, shorten it or uh, tighten it up a little bit, and so it needs some work, and
Well,
but it's what? Go ahead.
now I was just curious. When you have unfinished pieces of work, does it ever frustrate you in your day-to-day life where you're thinking in the back of your head, man, I want to finish that already, or it doesn't bother you?
Yeah, and I think that's probably where my I actually took medication for this one time, and it was diagnosed by a therapist having ADHD, and took some medication. But I took this is an old drug, Adderall, and you probably even heard people saying that in movies and shows and stuff about kids who get, are hyper and they get on Adderall. Adderall, there's some other medications that are similar. I'm not even sure if Adderall is still being used, but I took it for a while, a couple of years, and this is 10, 15 years ago, and my wife and daughter actually um, mentioned that they didn't like how I acted while I was on it. That it wasn't uh, as it did as much to help me as they thought it might have been done. So I just stopped it. I just stopped it. So I don't do that at all. So back to your question, probably has something to do with that with um, ADHD people quite often uh, start projects but don't finish them, or they're anal about them and they go ramrod through them, and that has not been the case with me. So, um, but I think back to people like J.D. Salinger, and I don't know if you know who J.D. Salinger is. Do you?
Yeah,
Yeah. A little
good
bit
writer.
about anyway. I read a documentary about him, or saw a documentary about him at the River Oaks Theater years ago, when it's had its ups and downs, been open and closed, and going to be demolished and all that kind of stuff. But it was at one point it was doing documentaries, and I went to one because I had read a big thick book. I've got it here, a big thick book about him, and one of the things I learned about him, and I might have said this in one of our meetings, is that when he died, he was living in a wooded area that he built a home in with a couple of kids, boy and a girl, and his wife, and like a cabin, and then he had like a smaller, more primitive cabin off, a mile away or half mile away, and he actually that's where he did his work, and that's where he stayed quite often, and he would actually have people having appointments like kids would have to pick a certain time when they could come and visit him and stuff. Now he did go back to the house from time to time, I'm guessing. But anyway, inside when he died and his kids were going through the house, this little small primitive cabin, they found a safe and they got it open and found in it a stack of documents, ones which were ready to go to the publisher, and those were needed some more work. And so I guess mine fall in that category of needing some more work for the most part. But so that's kind of in the answer to your question. That's probably why I set things aside and then go back to them. Although I have read where quite a few authors do that, and um, you're if you think about writing enough and you do enough dabbling in it, I think you develop a an ability like being in this critique group for 10, 12 years, 15 years. You develop a better ability to recognize, you know, ways things, your writing should go. So um, I've found it helpful to have that additional knowledge to go back to these things and see things that I wouldn't have allowed now, or I'd change and or knock out these words or whatever. And so I found that uh, that added knowledge is helpful in going back and looking at these things again. And now I've rekindled the idea of making them a finished, polished piece that I could present somewhere or put in a book form or whatever you know I want to do. But
Yeah,
so it's kind of a adventure, you might say.
it certainly is. And, you know, for myself, I do get frustrated when I have unfinished pieces. It's like, hey, I know I can finish them, but I'm not for whatever reason, whether that's
Yeah,
conscious or unconscious, I'm not. And I remember reading from Rick Rubin. He had a book on it's called The Creative Act. And in it he gives the example of a seed. And he's like, let's say you plant a seed and you water it. It would be foolish of you to want it to immediately become an oak tree. I mean, it's
yeah,
just foolish for you to get angry and upset that it hasn't manifested as soon as you
yeah,
wanted it to.
yeah,
And so I think sometimes when a piece isn't finished yet, I feel like it could only be for a good reason. It'll flesh out when the time is right. And as cliche as that sounds, I think it's true. It is true.
yeah, yeah. I've got another one that's a real adventure. It's one I call it One Crazy Race, and if a person, mostly runners would know about this, but it's based on uh, a book that was written called Born to Run, and Born to Run is a story of Terra Humara is a Indian tribe in Mexico, way down in the bowels of Mexico. Uh, 100 miles or so from the border of U.S. and Mexico. And somebody discovered them some years ago, and they had not in Olympics or international competition or anything, but that they ran, and most of them ran barefoot, but that they ran uh, races. They had all sorts of races within their tribe and everything, but they were fast. I mean, fast, like world class fast. So I wrote this story about four runners from different parts of the world. One was from Glasgow, Scotland. One was from Scottsdale, Arizona. One was from Canada, and one was from Russia, which is really kind of a melting pot mix of people. And anyway, so they set up an adventure through the United States government. They set up an adventure to go down to Mexico and learn more about them, train with them, and that kind of thing. And it was fairly soon after I had read the book Born to Run, which is in the Runnels in latest in in running books that have been written over the years, it's probably one of the more respected uh, storylines because it's all about this, and I'm going to try and pronounce it again, Terra Humera uh, tribe, and but it's all much more detailed than my story about them and everything. And probably before I do anything with it, I probably need to get a hold of the author and tell them what I'm doing, or at least get their blessing or something. So that's one that I'm messing with uh, now. And then let's see, there's another one called My Sweetheart, and this is one uh, uh, that I'm writing about. It's kind of a almost a memoir, not a memoir, but um, family history kind of story. It's a story of my parents' first few years and dating in high school, and they were 2 years apart. And then World War II came up, and what happened was my in 42, my dad was a senior in college in an engineering school in northeastern Ohio, where I was born in the state of Ohio anyway. And this was before I was involved. Of course, I was born in 47, but this is between 40 and 45, the World War II. And he was a senior and rocking along. And then he went off. They had a big party with his fraternity, and they came back from the party. And in the wee hours the next morning, that's when Pearl Harbor was attacked by uh, Japanese, and so things changed. So suddenly they wanted to graduate that class, so they accelerated their timetable on the coursework and everything, and got them all out. That particular class got them out in 42, and then he became a officer in the Navy and went off to the Navy and then that was in 40, and then in 43, excuse me, in 42 they got married in September, and then in 43 my sister was born. She was the only one born during the war, uh, and in North Carolina. And anyway, so it's kind of a brief history of that developing relationship, and it's kind of fun. I had to actually look up some facts and stuff. I'm one of those writers that tries to be as accurate as I can, and so I want to do as much research to to not be uh, inaccurate as far as details and dates and all that kind of stuff. Um, I've I've been known to go to great lengths to especially like I wrote a biography, the only thing I've got published, um, and it came out in 17, late 17. I call it 18, 2018. I mean, excuse me, 16 came out in 20 and 16, but actually didn't really hit the market very much until 17, in the start of 17, 2017. And there were times. It's a good thing I ran it by him and his it was co-authored by another guy. It was about him. He was a middle distance runner, still is. He's in his 90s now. Anyway, so I ran it by him and also his son, and there were some, just because I didn't get all my facts straight, there were some uh, inaccuracies as far as the timetable of things. And in a biography, uh, at least the ones I read, I always like to know that, well, that happened in 42, and then 43 this happened, and then 44 this happened, the kind of thing. You want to have it in the right order. So I was corrected on a couple minor things, but things that probably a lot of people wouldn't catch. They but some people would. And if you think about that, it's only that one person that would catch something. It reminds me of Salinger. I think one time somebody put a comma in the wrong place, and he and publishers did not have a good relationship in the first place. He had been burned quite a few times, so that's why he didn't publish for a long time after he put out uh, his first book. And so uh, anyway, he fired that one, and then another one uh, he submitted a book, and everything was fine. He signed on the dotted line and all that kind of stuff. A few months later, the book came out, and he got his proof copy or whatever, and they changed the title on him. And if you're an author or even playing around about being an author, and somebody changes the title on even a short story or anything, change the title, especially a book, he's like, "Wait a minute!"
It's a
And
big
he
deal.
that guy that group was gone. So he probably ran out of publishers after a while. But he was an interesting character. He actually uh, was a correspondent in no, see, he was fighting in World War I, and he ran into Hemingway, who was a journalist
Hmm.
for the war, for the Americans in the war, and they developed a relationship. It was kind of a hit and miss relationship, but it was I don't know. I've never really read too much that said they were just like real palsies, real, together, kind of thing. But they did know each other, and they did have a few contacts among each other. I think I don't know, I think probably about the same age. I'd have to look it up
Hmm.
to see for sure. But uh, that's a life that I wouldn't have ended it like Hemingway did, but that's a life Hemingway that he enjoyed booze and writing and women and the sea, and he 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 definitely lived his own life. He lived it his way, and
Yeah.
uh, we'll never know exactly why he ended his life the way he did. But you got to give him credit for you know, especially when he lived down in Cuba, finding somewhere, liking it, buying a home, and having uh, a bit of a family, and writing and enjoying life. Looks like no matter where he was enjoying life. Um, he wrote a lot of short stories too, and I've not read too many of them. A lot of good, successful writers started writing short stories first, and poetry. Some poetry and some writing short stories, but I think that just energizes the mind, to write short stories. I've
Yeah.
never,
It's like a warm up, a warm
yeah,
up to what
exactly.
you're.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. It's more of a warm up. The it warms up the mind, gets the mind uh, uh, to to generating story and some plots and that kind of thing. Uh, Not having anything published from a fiction end of things. These are pieces of some related facts, and but others are fictitious, but based on something. Um, Fiction is hard to write. I find, um, just to like make up something. But I do find that the pieces that I've tried that are fictional are always based on one or more experiences of my life, uh, uh, and just embellished in some way, added to.
Embellished
Uh,
is a good word. Yeah.
yeah, I think I'd like to really, and Sharon and I talked recently, and we have this. I told some of the group, we do this Saturday special, and with the Houston Writers Guild, that's about the only activities I do with. I've gone to some of their conferences, and they're good. I've never been involved in any of their critique groups, although they have them all over the city, and they have some that are in person and some that are Zoom, like we're doing. And but Sharon, she said if she came back to our group, the sci-fi group, that she would only come back not to have anything critiqued or to critique anything, because she's got that going on with her own groups, with her books that she writes, and she's written quite a few books, uh, religious romance kind of things,
That is
with a
an
twist.
interesting genre.
Yeah, yeah. It's got some twists. It's got some, you know, twist to some of her books, but she's written quite a few, and she's got a system that a lot of people envy. Uh, she's got people that critique and read her read her there's a different term for it, but the readers, and then they give back their feedback to her, and then she makes appropriate changes if she chooses to, and then she goes to her publisher. But she's got a system, step by step, stage by stage system in writing her books, and I applaud anybody that can get in, get get that going, and to where she can just plug in there in different settings. One's in Minnesota. She's from Minnesota originally, and some are in Sweden or different places. And but she said the only time that she would want to come back to the Sci-Fair group, which she was in for a long, long time, but hasn't been lately, is to do maybe some talk. Hold on. Excuse me.
You good?
To do some talk about developing characters, character development, and I think that would be good for just about all of us in there to have somebody come in and talk on that particular subject, because that's probably, to me as a budding writer, uh, developing some fiction stories, that's probably that and dialogue for me are probably the biggest challenges of anything in putting something together, whether it's a short story or a novella or an actual bigger book, is character development, and when to tell what about them. You don't want to put too much backstory in the front of it, or people are going to say, like, what is the story about? You tell me a lot about the characters, but you're not telling me the story. And so then you have to be careful, to just dribble it in a little bit and just tantalize the reader's brain, and
Yeah.
but not too much. And then definitely in the first few pages or paragraphs or whatever to hook them, and then uh, you know take them on, to want more, to read more.
Yeah.
uh,
That
which
reminds me, I've mentioned this to you before as well, but one of my favorite pieces of writing advice, it's attributed to Charles Bukowski. He says,
Charles
Charles Bukowski.
Mikowski. Okay.
Yeah, he says writing must never be boring. And I just think it's
Yeah.
so true. Even if it's, a simple thing you're writing, just make sure it's not boring.
How you Mikowski? It's MC.
Bukowski with a B.
Oh, Bukowski.
Bukowski.
Oh, I'll have to look him up. He's written a lot of books.
He's written a lot of poetry. You would really
Oh,
like
okay.
him. Yeah, he really goes straight. He's a straight shooter.
Yeah. I think I like
I like
about.
your poetry too, by the way. What you shared
Oh
last week.
yeah, that was very elementary at this point. I've got some other pieces. I just haven't really dug in enough to get some really good ones. I've
You
got
had a
some.
great line about, standing at a pier, if I'm remembering correctly,
Oh
and then
yeah,
just seeing,
yeah,
ships come and go.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
ships yearning to come, some ships yearning to go.
yeah. Yeah, that was more about end of life kind of thing. That's what I was shooting for, was kind of like, uh, people get on ships and they ride away, and you wave at them and they're gone, and you may see them later on in your life or not or whatever. But it was more of a metaphor of, you know you're getting up in years, and you're getting to the point where you have way fewer years left than you do behind you, and kind of like I picture myself at this point at 78 to be in my fourth quarter, like in a football game. I'm just into the fourth quarter at 75. Turned into the fourth quarter, so uh,
You're very healthy for your age, by the way. I've mentioned that to you before. Like your physique is very toned.
I wish. Yeah, I'm with it. I had a pacemaker put in a week ago Friday. It's be 2 weeks this coming Friday, and 2 days from now, and it has restrictions, so I can't drive. And Friday, he hinted to me last Friday when I was at his office that I should be released to drive on Friday, this coming Friday. So I'm getting a ride to the appointment, of course, and hopefully he'll approve that. And the other was mowing the lawn. I had to get. I have a really involved Sunday school class with the Methodist Church that I belong to, and uh, I've borrowed some of them, or they've volunteered to take me different places, to the bank, to different things. I've got neighbors that have been volunteering, so I'm kind of tired of that. You know, kind of like your hands are tied or your feet are tied. You can't go anywhere, and so I'm hopefully he'll give me break the restrictions on pushing because it's a push mower. It's a self uh, I forget what the term is. Mulching, yeah, mulching. You can put a bag on the side, but I don't even have one. It's blocked. It's got bolts on it, and it self mulches when you do it that way. But if you go through some pretty thick grass, it takes an effort to get it through that. And as you know, as much as I don't know how much rain you're getting, but you know, I've even I've moved my sprinkler system timers around. I keep moving it back a day and back a day, seeing all these rains that we're getting. And so, but I'm looking forward. It's just something I enjoy. Um, uh, a nicely cut lawn. It's just, I guess, probably got it from my childhood or something. I know when I was growing up, my brother and I was always anxious to let our father let us mow around a tree or something out in the front, just because we saw him doing it. We thought, well, that must be fun. Then after a while, when you get a little older and you're getting to the point of going out, getting dates and dating women and stuff, then suddenly mowing the lawn isn't. It's kind of like down on the priority list. You're saying like, can we do that tomorrow, Dad? you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, he's
So, Tom, we're
but
coming to the last few minutes of the session. I was curious, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you felt like you wanted to share but you couldn't get to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
no, I would say that I'd like to finish some of these short stories and start putting them in categories. Whether it's uh, based on their subject, and then I'd like to get be more consistent in my poetry. My poetry typically comes around to events that a close friend or relative have had, or that I'm having, whether it's an anniversary or a big birthday or something like that, or an event like the prostate cancer and that kind of thing. Uh, uh, so I want to be more extemporaneous about putting something on paper that's meaningful. And so I, from this point on, I'd like to, you know, get these projects finished, start some new ones, and get more involved in poetry because I really enjoy poetry. Uh, but so far, it's been just it has to hit me, and I have to like verses are like in my head, and I can't do anything until I put them on paper. And I don't
Yeah.
know how that works for you, but uh, I've been known more than once to get up in the middle of the night and write out about 4 or 5 verses. Then sometimes I get stuck and I want to go further. And sometimes I tell myself, well, 5 years ago, you would just forced yourself to write a couple more verses and they would have sucked. Now, the older, more mature me says, this is fine. Just leave it like it is.
Yes.
So
I'm glad you mentioned that because there's some. I'm of the thought that anytime anything comes to me, just write it down, whether I think it's good or bad. And what I've come to realize recently is, say I wrote something 2 years ago and I didn't really like it. Well, when I revisit it now, and if I still don't like it, I can make a little change in this moment, and suddenly it's all better. And I don't know how that works. I mean, it took me like 2 years to look back at that and then fix it to something that I do like.
I
So,
think it's just basically a maturity of the writer mind. I think it's just a maturity what you've taken in and what you've heard and what you've read and what you've listened to, like in our critique groups. Uh, we have on any given day, and maybe not so much this past Tuesday, but the previous Tuesday and the Tuesday, we have some very good developing, some better, more developed than others, very good writers that I think are going to go somewhere. And I'm honest about that. I really do. And I think uh, those are the ones that I pay attention to more than others, especially those that, like, I'll just use an example as Jenna. Uh, Maybe I shouldn't use her real name, but call her Jan. Anyway, um, um, you recognize within the first critique that they do for a piece that you've written that or a person has written that a skill level, and I know she's a teacher, so maybe that's helpful. She grades papers and all that kind of stuff. Uh, my wife is a good critiquer uh, when I read things to her, or she reads them, and I don't always agree with what she does with them or what she thinks should be done with them. But uh, and she's one who's was a, a, a executive assistant, and for normally called back in the day a secretary. But she had worked with a lot of CEOs and of different uh, different fields like oil and gas and frozen drinks and real estate. And so she's had a wide variety of people who she's had to critique their letters.
Please continue.
Okay, well, I just wanted to finish that thought, and that was that. So she has a unique skill level, and she was also an office administration undergraduate degree. So she has unique skills that she's developed, and so I run things by her quite often, and uh, I listen to what she says. I kid her about, she just trashes everything I write, but she doesn't. She's pretty good about everything. So uh, anyway, yeah, that's all I really had to say. So I'm just uh, being on here with you just gets me more enthusiastic about finish some of these short story projects and getting more involved in that process as well as doing more poetry. Or,
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And I'm again I'm happy to have you on here. It surprises me that I've been a part of this critique group for over 2 years now.
yeah,
Time
yeah,
really did just fly by. And
oh yeah,
what I loved about the group, what I love about the group most is I think what it did for me is it killed my vanity as a writer,
yeah,
and it opened me up to more perspectives and
yeah,
how do
yeah,
people see things and what do some people like, but at the same time someone else doesn't, because people have different tastes. And so
yeah,
it's been a really nice experience to kind of broaden my horizon in that sense.
yeah, oh yeah. We've had some interesting situations. We've had one guy that came on that had been hit by a car, and
Hmm.
were you
Oh
involved in that?
yes, I was there. Yes.
And he made about two or three meetings. I think he's probably not going to come back, but uh, it presents challenges. And another one was that the guy had written like 15 books, 17 books, or what it was that came in. When we had that really big group, 15 or 16, I think, a couple Tuesdays ago, and he was trashing the way that Julie was taking on the two characters in the dialogue of that one particular story, and he, I don't know where he thought he was, but and that's fine if that's the way he feels, but I don't think it's something that you need to, you know, obviously. I don't think if he had been in critique group, he hadn't been in one in a long time because you just don't act that way. If you want to say something to somebody, afterwards or something, but call her out on that. Uh, I didn't think it was appropriate. I thought what she did was funny, but uh, you know, I'm just glad that everybody is on one page as far as the ability to get through the stories and the poetry and the short stories and the first parts of chapters and stuff, and that for the most part we're getting through the work of everybody that brought it in that particular night. And if we can continue to do that, but these 14, 15, and 16 uh, person attendance classes
Yeah,
are
the
challenging.
the the regular attendees have increased over the
Yeah.
past couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Like at least 10 regulars, huh? At
Oh
least.
yeah. Yeah. Uh, Jake and now his daughter-in-law and he's not there every time, but I would say probably 8 out of 10 classes he's there. Gene is rarely gone, rarely not there. Um, Bill is there, and yeah, we have some. And I
Yeah,
just wish
Martha
Waylon.
Wayland, a bunch of folks.
Well, I just wish he lived closer, and I know he wishes that too. He really. Now there's somebody who really absorbs on the spot, absorbs people's writing, and is able to give her critique back that just is polished, just amazing. He's very skilled at that particular activity, and I wish now
Yeah,
you remember some of the stuff he's read. I mean, he's
yeah,
written, yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
I hope he's gets back to that. I think his job is just really weighing him down. It's just the fact that he can't get over to the meetings, and he either gets there early, as you see nowadays, gets there early uh, sometimes late, but he doesn't like to be late. And I don't, I'm the same way. I don't like to be late. If they open up at 5:30, but I have trouble winding down things that are going on in my house, even though it's just me and my wife, and I have to get her kind of settled because I'm a caregiver for her, and so I have to feel comfortable to be able to leave, and uh, and so I'm only 4 miles, but if I wait till real close to 6 or 5 to 10 till 6 or something like that, and I take off, I'm going to run into a bunch of traffic going west. Everybody's going must live in Katy or Cypress or something because I'm with them that whole time. We used
Yeah.
to have the meetings earlier in the evening and at mid afternoon, and it used to catch some of the school zones through there. And I
Hmm.
remember even getting a ticket going to doing a class one time
Hmm.
in a school zone, and so I'm glad that it's the hour that it is, but it still creeps up on you. You'll see when when you're retired, but uh, you know, you think you have all the time in the world to get someplace because you're like when I go to the gym at the Y or something, I go in mid morning or mid afternoon. If you go in late morning, you're hitting the people who are just slipping in for 30 minutes worth of workout, and it could be crowded. Or you go in late afternoon, you're hitting the people that get off at 4 and they're going for their workout. Then they're going to go home. So I try to, you know, hit just like going to the grocery store. Don't don't go Friday afternoon when there's a Saturday holiday or a big event or something because everybody be wanting to get food to cook out and stuff. Anyway,
It's funny you say
so
that. I think I'm always fashionably late on purpose. I always walk in late. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Tom, was what's something about yourself that you wish more people knew about you?
hmm, that's a good question. Uh, well, a lot of them don't. A lot of people who are just friends of mine, just casual friends, don't know that I enjoy writing. That not necessarily have a lot of stuff that's published that I enjoy writing, and so you know that's something that a lot of people don't know. Maybe that I'm a bit of a gardener, a
Hmm.
a gardener for my not a big time, but I grow vegetables and stuff like that. Um, but that's not that unusual. But I started writing something. in about 18 years ago, and when I was 60, when I turned 60, uh, I was off on Fridays, and I remember I was off on Fridays. So I worked at a chiropractic clinic underneath a therapist as an exercise physiologist, and uh, I remember going down there to Galveston and going on the uh, not the sightseeing side, but the Strand side, and finding those little pocket parks there and everything. And I remember sitting in one of those pocket parks on a March day in my 60th birthday, and just writing, just jotting down things that came to my head. And so that's kind of where I started playing with all that. Where
Hmm.
it's going to go, we'll see.
Galveston is where it started, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I love Galveston. I'm a beach guy, but I like the Strand. I like people watching. They have a particular park there that is a life-size chess board with chess pieces. And so you see kids playing around with the chess pieces. As I remember, they don't really, you can't really move them. They're too heavy or they're welded down or something. And it just, I remember sitting on a bench near there looking over at the chess board itself and the pieces, and watching kids and adults, playing around with all that. It was kind of interesting. But
Hmm.
that's where I kind of kicked off my stuff, and we'll just have to see where else it goes at
I
this
suppose
point.
we will. Yeah. Well, Tom,
Anyway,
thanks for being here.
yeah,
I
thanks.
enjoyed the
That's fun.
conversation.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. So, see, our next meeting is next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I hope to
Yeah.
see you there, huh?
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.